Well, hello there.
Oh, hello.
Hello, everybody. I am Gyro Sean, if you are seeing this for the first time. And today we're going to talk about post-rotation for 2019. And specifically, we're going to talk about Pokemon Search. Now, just to sort of level set what we mean by that, we basically mean how are you going to get your Pokemon that you need out of the deck and either onto the bench or in your hand. That's basically what Pokemon Search is. So, yeah, I think the key thing to think about for post-rotation is we are losing two incredibly important cards. First, we're losing Nest Ball to the rotation, which is a staple in basically every single deck about getting your basic Pokemon onto your bench. The second card that we're losing is Ultra Ball. And, that allows you to discard two cards, search for any Pokemon, put it into your hand, which is incredibly useful if you need to get something like a Tapu Lele, RIP, or a Dedenne, and then be able to play it that turn to activate its ability. So what we're going to talk about today are the cards that we're still going to have available to us that can function like these two cards. Both cards that are out and cards that are coming out with this new set, Unified Minds. First, I want to start with Pokemon. So there are a variety of Pokemon in the sets that are going to stay that allow you to search for Pokemon and put them either onto your bench or in your hand. So I've broken these up into a few different categories of Pokemon. I think the first and frankly least interesting category are Pokemon that only allow you to search for one type. Those Pokemon that we have currently are things like Grubbin or Poochyena. Grubbin allows you to search for two electric type Pokemon and put them into your hand. Poochyena does that, but for dark type Pokemon. Now, the benefit with this is that they go into your hand, not directly onto your bench. So if they have any abilities, could be super useful. The problem with this, and you'll see this as a recurring theme with the Pokemon search from Pokemon, is that you basically are taking up a bench slot with something that's probably not that useful and far less useful than, say, a Marshadow. The second category of things is Pokemon that can search for basic Pokemon and specifically don't require a certain type of energy to do that. So these are things like Shaman, Luvdisc, Dunsparce, Pyukumuku, I don't know how you pronounce that. Basically, all of these Pokemon allow you to search for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench directly. That's the key with this group, is you can't put them into your hand. One colorless energy across the board. They go directly onto your bench. So if I were to pick my favorites from this group, it would probably either be a Dunsparce, because it allows you to pick 3 basic Pokemon, Luvdisc, which matches the number of basic Pokemon that your opponent has on their bench, and then Pyukumuku or Shaman is just 2. Standard run-of-the-mill stuff. So again, the problem that you're running into with this is these Pokemon have 70 HP, 60 HP, and they're not as useful as something like a Jirachi. It's a one-time effect that you get, and then they're just sitting ducks. They're free prizes, basically. So I don't know how useful these are honestly going to be, what decks might use these. I think if your deck requires this, it's probably not a very strong deck, in my opinion. The third category is Pokemon that can search for a Pokemon that don't require any energy but still require an attack. That would just be, as far as I know, the Alolan Diglett. Call for Family gets, 2 or 1 basic Pokemon, and you put it onto your bench. Doesn't cost you any energy. You can basically first turn throw this down if you're in a worst case scenario. I don't know if you're going to run 4 of these in your deck. The thing is, with all of these Pokemon, you have to have them in order to use them to find other Pokemon. Not ideal. The next category of Pokemon are things like Hoopa GX. This card is, I think, a great card. It is powerful enough to actually be useful on its own, so it's not a complete throwaway. It allows you to search on its first attack for 1 dark energy for any 2 cards. That could be Pokemon, Basic, Evolution, doesn't matter. It could be a Pokemon and an item. It could be a Pokemon and a supporter, doesn't matter. This is a very versatile card, and I could see Hoopa GX making its way as a 1 or 2 off in decks, as a just-in-case kind of card. If you can get the Hoopa GX, and I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a second, there's an item that will allow you to get the Hoopa GX to then get more Pokemon that aren't GX. We'll get into that. The next couple of cards are, I think, potentially useful, but I don't think quite as useful as the Hoopa GX. But one of them doesn't matter what kind of energy, which is Kangaskhan from Team Up. That allows you to search for 2 evolution Pokemon and put them into your hand. Now, because this can run in any deck, doesn't matter what the energy is, I think it could see a lot of play post-rotation. Again, the problem you have with this is getting it into your hand in the first place. If you're looking for Pokemon and you don't have this in your hand, it doesn't matter, right? I think that is going to be the real challenge with any of these Pokemon, is it requires drawing them in the first place. But Kangaskhan, I think, could be potentially interesting. 130 HP, a little bit harder to KO off the bat. And then the last one is Tropius. If you're running a grass deck, it can also search for 2 Pokemon. Doesn't matter if it's Evolution, Basic, GX, really doesn't matter. Tropius could be an interesting one. It has a 1-leaf, 2 colorless attack for 70. It's not great. Grass isn't in a great place right now. But I think Tropius could also be a very interesting pick. So in terms of Pokemon, that's about it. That's what we have to work with post-rotation for finding other Pokemon. As I said before, most of these I don't think are going to be valid options. Only a few of these are actually, I think, viable. And of those, they're not really viable for every deck type. You got to be running a dark deck. You got to be running a grass deck. So I think, unless you're really in a pinch, you might see a couple of these played here and there on certain decks, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of these running around. But it is an option. The next category of cards are supporter cards. They're less than ideal because, you're losing Nest Ball and Ultra Ball. You can play multiples of those in a turn. You can combine that with something like a Guzma or, well, not Guzma anymore, but other supporters. But if you play one of these supporters, that's it. That's your supporter for the turn. But some of them can be useful. The first group is really, there's just 2 cards. You got Jasmine and you got Crasher Wake. That allows you to search for specific types of Pokemon, Metal and Water respectively, and put them into your hand. Straightforward. If you're running one of those kind of decks, it's great. Cons and positives for each of them, but they're fine. If you're already running that kind of deck, you might as well throw one of those in there just in case. But ultimately, I don't think outside of that, obviously, they're not useful. The second group are 2 really interesting cards, actually. You have Nanu and you have Lance. And they're interesting because they are cards that allow you to put any Pokemon that is of that type, Darkness for Nanu and Dragon for Lance, directly onto your bench. So that means stage 2 evolutions like Dragonite, stage 1 evolutions like Weavile. There are certain conditions, either they have to be in your discard pile or your Pokemon has to be knocked out on your previous turn, but they are very interesting cards if you're running those types of decks to get stage 1, stage 2 Pokemon directly onto your bench immediately. I think these are going to see serious play in decks that run Dragon and Darkness type Pokemon specifically. The next group are cards that allow you to search for Pokemon specifically. I think Pokemon Fan Club is going to be one of those staples that we see. Where Ultra Ball and Nest Ball were staples, if you have a deck that runs non-GX basic Pokemon and you need a few of them in one turn, you're going to see people playing this Pokemon Fan Club. It's a card that you can discard later if you need to because you're already into that game. You got 5 or 6 Pokemon on the bench. But early game, getting that Pokemon Fan Club out there, getting 3 basic Pokemon into your hand, some of which might have abilities like Dedenne, I think this card is going to see a lot of action and is going to be in a lot of decks. Pokemon Fan Club. The next one is Professor Elm's Lecture. I think also a good choice if you're running decks that have low HP Pokemon. I think the Spiritomb deck that we see at NAIC is a good example of a deck that could, leverage this Professor Elm's Lecture to great effect. You can get 3 Spiritombs directly into your hand, put them down, start building that spite. I think it's a little bit situational for this supporter card, but for certain decks, this would be in place of that Pokemon Fan Club, perhaps. To be honest, I think if it were me, Pokemon Fan Club gives you much more flexibility. I don't know what non-basic Pokemon have less than 60 HP. So, to be frank, Pokemon Fan Club is basically just a better Professor Elm's Lecture. I'm trying to figure out, I guess you can do less. A Pokemon Fan Club allows you to do 2 basic. Professor Elm's Lecture allows you to do 3. This last group of supporters, there's 2 of them. They just allow you to search for any cards, really. So you've got Steven's Resolve, which I know, has seen a lot of action, as has Red's Challenge. They basically allow you to, look through your deck for any cards, Pokemon or otherwise, and then put them into your hand. Again, super great options. More versatile, certainly, than the Pokemon Fan Club, because you can get anything. I think you'll see a few more of these, especially as we're losing some of those main supporters, those gusting supporters. You might replace them with something like a Steven's Resolve or Red's Challenge. And now we are on to the last group, the item cards. And I'm going to include Stadium in here because there's one specifically. Starting with that Stadium, we have Ultra Space. I think if you're playing a deck that runs Ultra Beasts, you're going to throw this in there just in case. I think that this is going to see a lot of play in those decks, obviously, especially as the Stadium Wars begin to heat up. There's a lot of great stadiums coming out. I think you're going to need to have 2-3 stadium cards in play in your deck at any given time. So I think a lot of Ultra Beast decks are going to be running a lot of Ultra Space. They're going to have a good time. The next one is items that search for specific types of Pokemon. Some are better than others. I think Mysterious Treasure is already seeing a lot of play. It will continue to see a lot of play in Psychic decks especially, but Dragon decks potentially. The next one is something like a Beast Ball. It's a little strange because of the whole how it integrates with face down prize cards. You may not find an Ultra Beast there. I don't know. If you know that an Ultra Beast is going to be in there, it could be super useful. Maybe throw a couple of these in if you're running an Ultra Beast deck, just in case you don't prize the thing that you really need. Then you have something like a Friend Ball. I think Friend Ball, I haven't seen it in play at all. It's a strange card, especially if you don't expect to be facing any type of mirror matchup. But I could see people, if you're running a deck that plays a few different types of Pokemon for various reasons, especially since so many people are running Dedenne in their decks, you might see a couple of Friend Balls find their way into decks. Just so somebody throws down their Dedenne and you're like, I wish I could get my Dedenne here. Okay, cool. Grab that Friend Ball, throw it down. Okay, that they have an electric type. I'm going to go search for my Dedenne. Put it into my hand, throw it down, use my Day-Day change. I think Friend Ball could see a huge resurgence, especially as we lose a couple of these great item cards. And then you have things like Netball and Electromagnetic Radar. Netball obviously allows you to search for basic grass-type Pokemon, and Electromagnetic Radar allows you to discard and search for Pokemon GX or EX. They're fine. Electromagnetic Radar and Netball already see play in their respective decks. I think they'll continue to see play. And then I think you get to the cards that will be in every single deck from now on. And specifically, Pokemon Communication. I think this card, you need 3-4 of them in every deck moving forward, or probably every deck moving forward, because you don't know what Pokemon you're going to have in hand. And you may have other items that allow you to get Pokemon you don't really want or need in hand. But then you can use Pokemon Communication to basically just swap that out. Any Pokemon, just switch it out. You're seeing it in play a little bit now, and I think post-rotation, that is going to be a staple. Things I didn't include are Pokenav. Look at the top 3 cards, find a Pokemon. It's great. It's fine. It's fine, I guess. It's a little limited, but if you got extra room in a deck, I guess you could throw it in there. And then the one card that I haven't mentioned thus far because it's not out yet, but it is coming out soon, is Cherish Ball. I think Cherish Ball is an interesting card. It is pushing the entire meta towards a GX heavy lineup because it allows you to search for Pokemon GX. It's just straight up basically, I think I don't know if it goes into your hand or onto your bench, but it's basically a nest ball for GX Pokemon. I think, you're going to see 3, 4 of these running. Obviously, the problem with this is you lay all those out, you line your deck with GX, and that's just a bunch of prize cards waiting to be taken. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position. So I think you're going to see a mix of Cherish Balls plus a few of these that are catered and tailored to the type of deck that they're running. So you can get non-GX Pokemon and non-basic Pokemon into your hand and onto your bench. But that is all I have for today. Hopefully this was helpful. I know I've been doing a lot of research post-rotation. I think that a lot of people are going to be doing that research now that NAIC is wrapped up and Unified Minds is right around the corner. So definitely leave me your thoughts down in the comments. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'm going to be coming out with other, a series of videos for post-rotation for different things that we're going to be needing and missing. You could probably imagine what those videos are going to be about. And let me know if I forgot anything. I am actually fairly new back into Pokemon, so diving in head first. But yeah, tell me what you think. Definitely leave a comment and subscribe if you like this stuff. And I will see you next time.